A lawyer who had a wife and 8 children needed to move because his rental agreement was terminated by the owner, who wanted to reoccupy the home. But he was having a lot of difficulty finding a new house. When he said he had children, no one would rent a home to him because they felt that the children would destroy the place. He couldn't say he had no children because he couldn't lie. So, he sent his wife for a walk to the cemetery with 7 of their kids. He took the remaining one with him to see rental homes with the real estate agent. He loved one of the homes and the price was right. The agent asked, "How many children do you have?" He answered, 8. The agent asked, "Where are the others?" The lawyer, with his best courtroom sad look, answered, "They're in the cemetery with their mother." A policeman on horseback is sitting at some traffic lights when a kid on a bike pulls up next to him. The cop leans over and asks, "New bike? Did Santa bring it for you?" "Yes," the kid replies. The cop then says, "I'm issuing you with a safety violation ticket for $20. When you write your list for Santa, tell him to put a red taillight on your next bike." The kid takes the ticket and leans towards the cop. "Nice horse. Did Santa bring it for you?" The cop, to humor the kid, says, "Well, of course he did." The kid leans over again and retorts, "Well, when you write your list for Santa to get your next horse, tell him to put the dick underneath the horse and not on the top." A boss instructs 3 of his workers to drop an object off the top of a tall building to demonstrate how badly their sales figures have fallen in the last month and to show what the consequences of their lack of aptitude will be on the company. So they select 3 objects and retire to the top of the building. The first guy selects an apple and drops it from the building. He runs down to find a child sobbing. "What happened?" he asked. "An apple came from the sky and hit me on the head." "Don't worry. Stop crying. It will get better," the first man replies. The second selects an orange, drops it, and runs down to find another child sobbing. "What happened?" he asked. "An orange came from the sky and hit me on the head." "Don't worry. Stop crying. It will get better," the second man replies. The third selects a grenade, drops it, and runs down to find another child laughing his head off. "What happened?" he asked. "Well, I broke wind and that parked car was blown to smithereens." A new prisoner is placed in his cell. Before long, it is time for lights out, and the cell block becomes dark and nearly silent. Eventually, a voice from the darkness cries out, "22!" and everyone breaks out into raucous laughter. A while later, another voice calls out, "41!" and again the entire cell block hoots and roars. The new prisoner asks the guy in the next cell, "What's going on?" The guy says, "We've been here so long we all know each other's jokes, so we assign numbers to them, and when we want to tell a joke, we just use the number." The new prisoner calls out, 98, and sets off uproarious laughter, much more than the other numbers. So he asks the guy in the next cell why that was. Through barely controlled mirth, he replies, "Nobody had heard that one before." Heard. A ventriloquist is on his way to a gig when he stops off at a farm to rest up after a long drive. He decides that he will practice his skills on the farmer, so he asks him if he can talk to his dog. The farmer says, "I think you might struggle. The dog doesn't talk, but hey, I'll call him over." Well, the dog comes over and the ventriloquist asks the dog what he thinks of the farmer. "Well, he is just great. He feeds me, scratches my belly, takes me for walks, and throws a ball for me to chase and bring back. I love him. It's not only the dog that talks. If you'll let me, we can talk to the horse." The farmer is absolutely astonished, but agrees, so they head off to the stable. "Hello, Mr. Horse. How are you today, and what do you think of the farmer?" the ventriloquist asks. The horse replies, "Well, I just love him. He feeds me hay and oats. He puts a blanket over me to keep me warm. He has given me a lovely stable to live in, and he lets me run across the fields for exercise." The farmer is astounded, so the ventriloquist, needing more practice, asks if they can go and talk to the sheep. At this, the farmer says, "No! Those sheep are nasty, and they tell lies." While crossing the U.S.-Mexican border on his bicycle, the man was stopped by a guard who pointed to 2 sacks the man had on his shoulders. "What's in the bags?" asked the guard. "Sand," said the cyclist. "Get them off. We'll take a look," said the guard. The cyclist did as he was told, emptied the bags, and proving they contained nothing but sand, reloaded the bags, put them on his shoulders, and continued across the border. 2 weeks later, the same thing happened. Again, the guard demanded to see the 2 bags, which again contained nothing but sand. This went on every week for 6 months, until one day the cyclist with the sandbags failed to appear. A few days later, the guard happened to meet the cyclist downtown. "Say, friend, you sure had us crazy," said the guard. "We knew you were smuggling something across the border. I won't say a word, but what is it you were smuggling?" "Bicycles!" A man is waiting at the pearly gates. St. Peter explains to him that to enter heaven there is criteria that has to be met. "So," St. Peter said, "are you deeply religious? Did you attend church every weekend? Did you live by the 10 Commandments?" "Sadly, no," the man replies. "Did you give money away to the poor or charities?" Again, the answer was no. "Did you do good deeds for your neighbors and friends?" Yet again, the answer is no. "Look, I need something to work with here," St. Peter replied. "Is anything you can recall that might help?" "Well," said the man, "I was in a store and heard a commotion outside. I went out to find a dozen Hell's Angels who were pushing an old lady around and they had taken her purse. Without concern for my own safety, I waded in, recovered the purse, picked up the lady from the ground, and then squared up to the Hell's Angel leader, called him a coward, and spat in his face." St. Peter retorted, "That's wonderful and guarantees you a place in heaven. Just for the record, do you recall when this happened?" "About 10 minutes ago," the man replied. After many years of marriage, a husband has turned into a couch potato, become completely inattentive to his wife, and sat guzzling beer and watching TV all day. The wife was dismayed because no matter what she did to attract the husband's attention, he'd just shrug her off with some bored comment. This went on for many months, and the wife was going crazy with boredom. Then, one day at a pet store, the wife saw this big, ugly, snorting bird with a hairy chest, powerful hairy forearms, beady eyes, and dribble running down the side of its mouth. The shopkeeper, observing her fascination with the bird, told her it was a special imported goonie bird, and it had a very peculiar trait. To demonstrate, he exclaimed, "Goonie bird! The table!" Immediately, the goonie bird flew off its perch and with single-minded fury attacked the table and smashed it into 100 little pieces with its powerful forearms and claws. To demonstrate some more, the shopkeeper said, "Goonie bird, the shelf." Again, the goonie bird turned to the shelf and demolished it in seconds. "Wow," said the wife. "If this doesn't attract my husband's attention, nothing will." So she bought the bird and took it home. When she entered the house, the husband was, as usual, sprawled on the sofa, guzzling beer and watching the game. "Honey," she exclaimed, "I've got a surprise for you. A goonie bird." The husband, in his usual bored tone, replied, "Goonie bird, my ass." A man walked into the ladies' department of Marks and Spencer's and walked up to the woman behind the counter and said, "I'd like to buy a bra for my wife as a Christmas present." "What type of bra?" asked the sales assistant. "Type?" inquires the man. "There is more than one type?" "Look around," said the sales lady, as she showed a sea of bras in every shape, size, color, and material. Actually, even with all of this variety, there are really only 3 types of bras, replied the sales assistant. Confused, the man asked what the types were. The sales assistant replied, "The Catholic, the Salvation Army, and the Evangelist type. Which one do you need?" Still confused, the man asked, "What is the difference between them?" The lady responded, "It is all really quite simple. The Catholic type supports the masses, the Salvation Army type lifts up the fallen, and the Evangelist type makes mountains out of molehills." It is a particularly busy day in heaven, and there is a queue at the pearly gates, with 3 men in it. Peter says, "Tell me how you died, and if you have a tragic ending, you will be admitted." The first man pipes up, "Well, I suspected my wife was cheating on me, so I came home early. I went in the lift to our 25th floor apartment and started searching, but found nothing. As a last chance to catch someone, I decided to search on the balcony. Sure enough, I found a man hanging from the rail. In a rage, I started to kick and punch him, but he held on, so I got a hammer and hit his hand. He let go, but fell into some bushes and was still alive, although hurt badly. I was so angry I ran inside, picked up the fridge and dropped it on him, killing him immediately." "That sounds like a pretty bad day to me," said Peter, and let the man in. The second guy then speaks. "Well, I was doing my exercises on my 26th floor apartment balcony when I slipped and fell. I thought I was a goner, but luckily I grabbed the balcony railing of the flat below. As I was trying to climb up, this guy came onto the balcony and, instead of rescuing me, started to kick and punch me. He hit my hand with a hammer, and I fell 25 floors, but survived because I landed in a big bush, although I was very badly injured. All of a sudden, I looked up and saw a fridge hurtling towards me. It hit me, and I died." "That sounds like a pretty bad day to me," said Peter, and let the man in. The third man then speaks. "Well, I'm hiding in this fridge." 2 ladies are on a night out and have a bit too much to drink. Anyway, they stagger off home but find they need to go to the toilet. As they won't make it home without going for a wee, so they nip into the local cemetery and go. The first lady, with nothing to wipe herself with, takes off her pants, wipes herself, and throws them away. The second is wearing expensive underwear and does not want to throw her pants away, so she manages to grab a ribbon off a wreath, wipes herself, and then throws the ribbon away. They duly stagger home to bed. Next day, the husband of the first lady rings the husband of the second one. "These drunken nights out have to stop. My wife came home with no pants on." The second lady's husband retorts, "That's nothing. Mine came home with a card sticking out of her bottom with the words, 'From all of us at the fire station, we'll never forget you.'" A lady had just totally written off her car in a horrific accident. Miraculously, she managed to pry herself from the wreckage without a scratch and was applying fresh lipstick when the state trooper arrived. "My goodness!" the trooper gasped. "Your car looks like an accordion that was stomped on by an elephant. Are you okay, ma'am?" "Why, yes, officer. I'm just fine," the lady chirped. "Well, how in the world did this happen?" the officer asked as he surveyed the wrecked car. "Officer, it was the strangest thing," the lady began. "I was driving along this road when I started to doze off. When I woke up, this tree from out of nowhere popped up in front of me. So I swerved to the right, and there was another tree. I swerved to the left, and there was another tree. I swerved to the right, and there was another tree. I swerved to the left, and there was—" "Ma'am," the officer said, cutting her off, "there isn't a tree on this road for 30 miles. That was your air freshener swinging back and forth on your rearview mirror." On a visit to New York, an Englishman and a Scotsman go to a pastry shop. The Englishman whisks 3 cookies into his pocket with lightning speed. The baker doesn't notice. The Englishman says to the Scotsman, "You see how clever we are. You'll never beat that." The Scotsman says to the Englishman, "Watch this." A Scotsman is always cleverer than an Englishman. He says to the baker, "Give me a cookie. I can show you a magic trick." The baker gives him the cookie, which the Scotsman promptly eats. Then he says to the baker, "Give me another cookie for my magic trick." The baker is getting suspicious, but he gives it to him. He eats this one too. Then he says again, "Give me one more cookie." The baker is getting angry now, but gives him one anyway. The Scotsman eats this one too. Now the baker is really mad, and he yells, "And where is your famous magic trick?" The Scotsman says, "Look in the Englishman's pocket." Jack, age 3, was watching his mom breastfeeding his new baby sister. After a while, he asked, "Mom, why have you got two? Is one for hot and one for cold milk?" Melanie, age 5, asked her granny how old she was. Granny replied she was so old she didn't remember anymore. Melanie said, "If you don't remember, you must look in the back of your panties. Mine say 5 to 6. Brittany, age 4, had an earache and wanted a painkiller. She tried in vain to take the lid off the bottle. Seeing her frustration, her mom explained it was a child-proof cap, and she'd have to open it for her. Eyes wide with wonder, the little girl asked, "How does it know it's me?" Susan, age 4, was drinking juice when she got the hiccups. "Please don't give me this juice again," she said. "It makes my teeth cough." One night after a wild date, I wake up next to this girl, blankets half on the floor, clothes scattered like confetti. I stretch, look down, and suddenly freeze, right there, hanging off my package. There is nothing worse than after love, looking down and seeing that limp, used condom hanging off your package, particularly when you weren't wearing one when you started. A mystery lover takes his place in the theater for opening night, but his seat is way back in the theater, far from the stage. The man calls an usher over and whispers, "I just love a good mystery, and I have been anxiously anticipating the opening of this play. However, in order to carefully follow the clues and fully enjoy the play, I have to watch a mystery close up. Look how far away I am. If you can get me a better seat, I'll give you a handsome tip." The usher nods and says he will be back shortly. Looking forward to a large tip, the usher speaks with his co-workers in the box office, hoping to find some closer tickets. With just 3 minutes left until curtain, he finds an unused ticket at the will call window and snatches it up. Returning to the man in the back of the theater, he whispers, "Follow me." The usher leads the man down to the second row and proudly points out the empty seat right in the middle. "Thanks so much," says the theater-goer. "This seat is perfect." He then hands the usher a quarter. The usher looks down at the quarter, leans over, and whispers, "The butler did it in the parlor with the candlestick." An old geezer who was a retired farmer for a long time became very bored in retirement and decided to open a medical clinic. He put up a sign outside that said, "Dr. Geezer's Clinic. Get your treatment for $500, and if not cured, get back $1,000. Dr. Young, who was positive that this old geezer didn't know beans about medicine, thought this would be a great opportunity to get $1,000. So he visited Dr. Geezer's clinic. Dr. Young, "Dr. Geyser, I've lost all taste in my mouth. Can you please help me?" Dr. Geyser, "Nurse, please bring medicine from box 22 and put 3 drops in the patient's mouth." Dr. Young, this is gasoline." Dr. Geyser, "Congratulations, you've got your taste back. That will be $500. Dr. Young gets annoyed and goes back after a couple of days, figuring to recover his money. Dr. Young, "I've lost my memory. I can't remember anything." Dr. Geyser, "Nurse, please bring medicine from box 22 and put 3 drops in the patient's mouth." Dr. Young, "Oh, no, you don't. That's gasoline." Dr. Geyser, "Congratulations. You've got your memory back. That will be $500. Dr. Young, after losing $1,000, leaves angrily and comes back after several more days. Dr. Young, "My eyesight has become weak. I can hardly see anything." Dr. Geyser, "Well, I don't have any medicine for that, so here's your $1,000 back, and handed him a $10 bill. Dr. Young, but this is only $10. Dr. Geyser, congratulations, you got your vision back. That will be $500. A family had twin boys whose only resemblance to each other was their looks. If one felt it was too hot, the other thought it was too cold. If one said the TV was too loud, the other claimed the volume needed to be turned up. Opposite in every way, one was an eternal optimist, the other a doom and gloom pessimist. Just to see what would happen, on the twins' birthday, their father loaded the pessimist's room with every imaginable toy and game. The optimist's room he loaded with horse manure. That night, the father passed by the pessimist's room and found him sitting amid his new gifts, crying bitterly. "Why are you crying?" the father asked. "Because my friends will be jealous, and I'll have to read all these instructions before I can do anything with this stuff. I'll constantly need batteries, and my toys will eventually get broken," answered the pessimistic twin. Passing the optimist twin's room, the father found him dancing for joy in the pile of manure. "What are you so happy about?" he asked, to which his optimist twin replied, "There's got to be a pony in here somewhere." A guy meets his girlfriend in the pub, and she seems really down in the dumps. "What's the trouble, Petal?" "It's this jigsaw puzzle I bought. I have been trying to do it for ages, but I'm not getting anywhere. I emptied all the pieces on the kitchen table, but I cannot find the corners or any straight edges." "What is the puzzle about, Treacle?" he asks. "Well, it's a picture of a large cockerel crowing at the sun. The boyfriend tells her to drink up, and he will go home with her to give her a hand to complete it. They get back and go into the kitchen. "You see what I mean?" she sighs. "Look, sweetheart," he retorts, "just pick up the cornflakes and put them back in the box." The priest said, "Sister, this is a silent monastery. You are welcome here as long as you like, but you may not speak until directed to do so." Sister Mary lived in the monastery for 5 years before the priest said to her, "Sister Mary, you have been here for 5 years. You may speak 2 words. Sister Mary said, "Hard bed." "I'm sorry to hear that," the priest said. "We will get you a better bed." After another 5 years, Sister Mary was summoned by the priest. "You may say another 2 words, Sister Mary." "Cold food," said Sister Mary, and the priest assured her that the food would be better in the future. On her 15th anniversary at the monastery, the priest again called Sister Mary into his office. "You may say 2 words today." "I quit," said Sister Mary. "It's probably best," said the priest. "You've done nothing but complain since you got here." Billy Smart, the circus impresario, is in Ireland staging some shows and pops into a bar for a drink. After ordering a Guinness, he sees a large crowd in the corner of the bar and wonders what is going on. As he peers over the crowd, he's seen a metal bucket upside down on the table with a duck on top of the bucket, and it's tap dancing whilst its owner is playing "Putting on the Ritz" on the harmonica. Well, he's bowled over with it and offers the guy 10,000 euros for the duck and bucket, who promptly snatches his hand off. Anyway, Billy takes the duck with him back to the circus, gives it top billing, and gets one of the musicians to play "Putting on the Ritz" on the harmonica. The curtains go back, and the duck is on the bucket on a table in the center of the ring. The musician starts to play, and the duck does absolutely nothing. Post-show and angry, Billy Smart hotfoots it to the pub and grabs the seller warmly by the throat, demanding his money back. The man asks Billy to calm down and inquires, "Did you remember to put the lighted candle under the bucket?" There's this guy who had been lost and walking in the desert for about 2 weeks. One hot day, he sees the home of a missionary. Tired and weak, he crawls up to the house and collapses on the doorstep. The missionary finds him and nurses him back to health. Feeling better, the man asks the missionary for directions to the nearest town. On his way out the back door, he sees this horse. He goes back into the house and asks the missionary, "Could I borrow your horse and give it back when I reach the town?" The missionary says, "Sure, but there is a special thing about this horse. You have to say thank God to make it go and amen to make it stop." Not paying much attention, the man says, "Sure, okay." So he gets on the horse and says, "Thank God." And the horse starts walking. Then he says, "Thank God, thank God." And the horse starts trotting. Feeling really brave, the man says, "Thank God, thank God, thank God, thank God, thank God." And the horse just literally takes off. Pretty soon he sees this cliff coming up, and he's doing everything he can to make the horse stop. Whoa, stop, hold on. Finally he remembers, amen. The horse stops 4 inches from the cliff. The man leans back in the saddle and says, "Thank God." A young couple, both virgins, are about to get married, although the bride does not really believe her future husband is a virgin. 2 days before the wedding, the bridegroom and his friends are playing golf when the groom gets hit in a very delicate place with a fully struck golf ball. Writhing in agony, an ambulance is called, and he is carted off to the hospital. The doctor examining says it may not be too bad, to which the groom replies, "But I'm getting married in 2 days." "Okay," the doctor replies. "What I'll do is use 4 wooden tongue depressors and use them to form a splint with a little elastoplast, and hopefully that will help and get you ready for your honeymoon." So after the 2 days go by, the wedding takes place, and the newlyweds retire to their hotel room. The bride, still not sure about her husband being a virgin again, and questions him, "My darling, how can I be sure you're a virgin?" At which point her husband drops his trousers and says, "Well, look, my darling, it is still in the crate." A group of people are on a plane waiting to depart. The stewardess comes on the intercom and says they have been waiting for the 2 pilots, but they are now walking across the tarmac. To their complete shock, the passengers look out of the windows to spot 2 men dressed in pilot uniforms walking with white sticks and guide dogs. Panic, of course, ensues. The stewardess manages to calm people down momentarily, assuring the passengers that the pilots are experienced and have flown many times. The pilots take their seats and the plane taxis to the runway. Having gotten clearance, the pilots throttle the engines up to maximum power and the plane accelerates forward at speed closer and closer to the end of the runway. The passengers grow increasingly concerned and start screaming and shouting loudly, at which point the plane takes off with feet to spare. In the cockpit, one pilot turns to the other and says, "You know, one day those people are going to scream too late and we are going to die." A husband and wife are celebrating 25 years, and he wants to do something special, so he asks her what she would really like to eat. "I've never tried snails, and I really would like to." So he sets off to the market, where he finds a shop selling live snails and buys a bucket full. On his way home, he stops for a coffee and gets talking to a really attractive young lady who invites him back to her place. Well, one thing leads to another, and they end up making passionate love for hours. Suddenly he realizes his wife is waiting for the snails, so he says his goodbyes and hot-foots it home. He knocks on the door and hears his angry wife stomping to answer it. He's so nervous he drops the bucket, and all the snails fall out. When his wife answers the door, he utters, "Come on, boys, just a few more steps and we'll be there." 2 policemen went on patrol, and at 4 o'clock at night, when they suddenly saw an older man walking alone in the street, wobbling and barely walking a straight line. They stopped him for questioning, make sure he's not drunk in public or getting into a car to drive home. "Where does Sir come from, please?" they asked him. "I come from the best place in the world," he answered in a very slushed voice. "This is my favorite bar that has the best drinks and the nicest girls. Each one is friendlier than the next." The man continued and winked at the cops. "It sounds like a great place," said one of the officers. "And where are you going at a time like this? Shouldn't you be in bed?" "What? Sleep? No way. I'm on my way to a lecture on alcohol addiction and its effects on the body, the harms of smoking, and proper social behavior." "Really?" an officer said dubiously, exchanging knowing looks with his partner. "Are you sure you didn't drink too much tonight? I seriously doubt anyone is giving lectures on these topics at a time like this." The man sighed and said, "Tell that to my wife."